What are you reporting?
I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
A good-sized man, or something that looks like a man.
Okay. You've had problems in the neighborhood before?
Yeah, my dog was killed here just recently. I don't know what it was.
Welcome to Sasquatch Hypotheses.
If I was going to take it, or whatever it was, it was Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Tia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
Son of a bitch is about 6'9".
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
And the guy is on foot.
I don't know what, it's a big, real big person.
But it is a person.
Yeah, I'd say it was a person, somebody really big, but he's all in black.
Is he a black male or a white male? Did you actually see whether, or was he just wearing black?
He's all black and he's big. He is big.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to Sasquatch Hypotheses. Before I get into the show, I wanted to just put out there that if you have had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, go ahead and give me an email at sasquatchhypotheses@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to have you on the show. So for tonight's show, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Patterson Gimlin film and the skeptics' standpoint that it's a hoax. Now, when I first saw this back in the 70s when I was a kid, I actually was on the fence, and I think I saw it first time when I was about 8 years old or so, between 8 and 10. And I thought I saw it on In Search Of, which I'm sure is where a lot of people saw it for the first time if you're up in my age range. When I first saw it, it was a very low quality version of the film. And to me, it looked like it could be a guy in a suit. And that one of the things that, well, there were two things that really made me think that the most. One being the line that ran down her back. I thought, well, that's a zipper, you know. And the other thing was that the butt looked like it was a padded pair of shorts that somebody was wearing. And I figured, well, they probably just glued, you know, a bunch of hair on somebody, and he's wearing a pair of shorts with a pillow in the back. That's kind of what it looked like. But of course, you know, at the time, it was a very low quality version. It hadn't been enhanced. You know, nowadays with computers, we can do some pretty amazing enhancement on these things. And I'm sure if you've been looking into this at all, you're familiar with the work of M.K. Davis. He has some kind of screwy ideas, if you ask me, like the idea that Patterson and Gimlin actually shot them and stuff like that. But that aside, he has done some amazing work as far as enhancing and stabilizing the film. So now we have the benefit of seeing those kind of images that are really much better than anything we saw when this film was first put out there in the 70s. But even so, one of the things that made me wonder or kept me on the fence about it being a hoax or not was the fact that you could tell that the thing looked like a gorilla, you know, with the head being down into the shoulders and the arms being longer and that kind of thing. And even when I was a kid, I could tell and that the hands moved. Okay, and the one thing that's not disputed, even by skeptics, is the length of the arms. Well, if we take it as being fact that the arms in the film are longer than a normal human's arms, and you look at the fact that the wrist is articulated, that the wrist and the fingers move as the animal is moving through the scene, then you have no option but to accept it as being a true film. You cannot say that it's a hoax, because back in 1967 they did not have animatronics. They could not have articulated the wrist and the fingers if that was a prosthetic extension to a man's hand. You know, they usually, and even up until very recently, the last couple of decades, I mean, it was very high end for you to see a gorilla suit where the arm extensions were articulated. They usually just used a solid extension. So if you figure back then in 1967, they probably didn't even have that kind of ability to do an articulated arm extension. You have to accept it as being fact. You cannot. It can't be a hoax at all. And even as a kid, I was aware of this. I knew that if the arm is longer than it's supposed to be, and the wrist is moving, either this guy is some kind of mutant, or this thing is for real. So that's kind of where I was. And then I saw one, and then I knew that they're real. But let's look at all of the arguments that the skeptics have. Well, it's a man in a suit, a padded suit. Yes, they were able to, do that kind of suit back then. Well, even if they could, you could not make a suit fit somebody as perfectly as this suit does. And you have skeptics saying, well, you can tell it's fake because there's no butt crack. Well, if you look at some of the works that M.K. Davis has done, you can see that, yes, it does have a butt. There is a butt crack. There are two different buttocks, cheeks, and they do move back and forth as the thing is walking. So that blows that out of the water. And then they're talking about the keys in the pocket, the bulge on the leg is somebody had keys in their pocket when they were in the suit. Well, that bulge is far lower. I mean, that's one hell of a deep pocket. If you got a pocket deep enough for your keys to be that far down on the thigh, because that bulge is below the center of the thigh, at center or below, and the pocket is much higher than that. I've never seen a pocket that deep. So there's not a set of keys in a pocket. That's an actual rupture in the mesh that surrounds the muscle tissue down there, which is causing the muscle to herniate. I mean, that's been put out there. Everyone, well, I would hope that anyone who's a serious skeptic has done their homework and has heard that, so that at least they've come up with an argument for that one as well. And then the breasts. Well, somebody just put some water balloons in there to make breasts. Okay. I suppose that's possible, although in at least one of the still images that you can see on the enhanced and stabilized versions that M.K. Davis has put out, you can actually see the nipples on the breasts. So I guess they went to the extreme of putting some kind of button or something on there to represent a nipple as well. And then, one of the things that also struck me when I was a kid about this not being a hoax is, all of us when we were kids and we wore Halloween costumes, you put on the plastic mask and you go out. I don't know about y'all, but I always ended up taking the thing off or wearing it on top of my head because I couldn't walk around with the thing on. And we're talking about plastic masks where the eye holes were pretty close to our eyes. I mean, they couldn't have kids walking around killing themselves. So the things were pretty easy to see through, but you still, at least I had to, walk around looking down all of the time. Because like if I stepped off a curb to cross the street, I had to look down at the curb to make sure I didn't fall over my feet or trip or, fall over anything else, because you can't just glance down without tipping your entire head down to see where you're going. Otherwise, you'd kill yourself. So how is it that this person in a suit wearing this extensive, head mask that had to obstruct their vision more than those little plastic masks we wore as kids, how is it that this guy is able to walk across a creek bed, which is all uneven terrain? It's got gravels and rocks and sticks and pieces of or limbs and parts of trees, which you can see scattered all over the place. He's able to walk through there naturally like some guy walking down a sidewalk. I don't think it's possible. So that when I was a kid, that was one of the things I thought of, was how is he able to do that without looking down? Because he'd be tripping over everything. So now I'm going to put up on my blog, I'm going to make a page called Evidence. And in the evidence, I'm going to post a few pictures, a few screen grabs or screen captures that I got from some of the videos that I found online that were, or on YouTube really, that were enhanced captures of the PG film. And one of them, which I'm glad that they came out with, because this goes along with the articulated wrist and fingers, is that now somebody has actually been able to enhance the feet. And in that you can see that the toes on the foot are moving. They are articulated. So this can't be some wooden thing, and it can't be some boot that somebody extended with some rubber or whatever, because the toes are actually moving along with, in a natural way, with the walk cycle of Patty. When her foot comes forward and she's getting ready to step down, her toes curl up just like ours do when we're walking barefoot. And something interesting that I saw in this walk cycle that they had enhanced, frame 329, I'll have that posted in the evidence. In frame 329, you can actually see the mid-tarsal break. You can see that the foot flexes at that mid-tarsal point that Dr. Meldrum talks about. So it's not just the toes that are flexing, it's the entire foot that's flexing. Now, in order for somebody to be wearing some kind of fake boot or whatever the skeptics might think they're wearing, they would have to have an itty-bitty tiny foot, because the thing is flexing in the middle of the foot, which even if you thought, some guy is wearing a boot and that boot has like toe extensions or something to make it bigger, that mid-tarsal break would still be probably just behind the ball of our foot. So it's not possible that this guy who's in this suit supposedly is able to walk like that, because a human foot just does not bend there, but yet Patty's foot does. The other thing I found interesting in this walk cycle was that the idea that Patty walks and people talk about a heel strike. Well, she's got this heel strike and then she follows through and then the mid-tarsal break. That's actually not what she's doing if you look at this. And I'll put a link to this video in the description. What she does is when her foot goes forward, she actually, now if you think about it, if you're trying to walk quietly, a lot of us have tried to sneak through the house so our parents don't hear us, right? What's the easiest way to walk quietly? Is to walk on your tippy toes or the balls of your feet. Well, that explains why so many people say that Bigfoot, you can't hardly hear them walking. Somehow they've managed to get away and you didn't hear them walk away. You talk about how stealthy they are when they're out in the woods. Well, that's because, according to this walk cycle, what I'm saying is her foot goes forward and starts to go down, her toes come up, and the ball of her foot comes down, and the first thing that hits the ground is the ball of her foot, not her heel. So she actually put, probably a flat-footed, but the toes are up, and the ball of the foot is striking at least simultaneously with the heel. There is no heel strike like we do. We hit with our heel first, and then our foot rolls into it, onto the ball and the toes, and then we kick off. Well, Patty is not doing that. Her foot, from the ball to the heel, is hitting either flat or the ball is hitting first. So that's a little bit of a different way of walking. So now, another image I'm putting up here in the evidence is it's like a collage that M.K. Davis put together. And it's a shot of the backside of Patty. And this is where he's actually pointing out the rump, the posterior of Patty. And you can plainly see the cleavage between the butt cheeks. And as it goes along, he goes, I guess it's one frame after another here, but in addition, you can see that as she's walking, the butt cheeks are undulating. The one's going up and then down and up and down, back and forth. Each butt cheek is going up and down, just like you would see in a person. So, and the butt crack becomes more prominent, less prominent, and that kind of thing, which is what you would expect if it's an actual real butt, So I'll put that one up in the evidence for you to look at too. And there's also a still, I believe he said it was frame 61, I believe is what it was. And this one here shows, in addition to showing the cleavage, which it's not as easy to see as the other one, but you can still see the cleavage in the butt. But it's also a still shot of the right foot, the bottom of the right foot, and you can plainly see, you can count the toes. You can see every toe. You can see the division between the toes. You can see the division between the toes and the ball of the foot. You can see a narrowing, almost an hourglass shape, right around where that mid-tarsal break is. It's an incredible shot of the bottom of the foot. So this is obviously part of the same film where that walk cycle where the toes are flexing. So there's no way that you can consider this a fake. Now, the skeptics say, well, they probably used some kind of a mechanism to make it do that. Okay, in 1967, they were able to do this. So, with all of the explanations that the skeptics give, you have to think, or you have to consider that this is a man who is an ex-rodeo star, who's got no money. He didn't even remember, if y'all know about the story, he didn't have the money to pay for the rental on the camera that he used to take the footage. That I guess he was taken to court, or they got the police after him or something like that. I don't know the particulars, but I do know that they went after him because he never paid for the camera. So he didn't even have the money to pay for the camera, yet he's had the money to pay somebody to put together this elaborate costume that has animatronic wrists, or animatronic arm extension, has animatronic feet, that has one of the best made suits ever. Because here's the other thing. They talk about how, well, that suit is, I'm sure you've heard they say that four-way stretch fur didn't exist in the 60s. and then somebody saying, well, yeah, but you could still do it with such whatever. Somebody else did it and they did a great job and whatever. To this day, that suit has not showed up. But also to this day, nobody has been able to recreate it. If it's so easy to do, and nowadays we have the 4-way stretch fur, why hasn't anyone recreated it? Why hasn't anyone come up with an outfit and put somebody in it and said, see, it can be done? I mean, we'd still be able to argue, well, yeah, we can do it now, but not back then. But evidently, we can't even do it now because nobody has done it yet. You know, there's hoax after hoax out there that are pretty obvious. You know, you can tell it's a guy in a suit, in a fur suit. Nobody has done a hoax where there is an outfit or a costume that's done as well as this one back in 1967, done by a guy who had no money. He didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, yet he was able to do something that nobody can do today. That's just craziness. It's crazy talk. I mean, we've all seen the hoax videos that are out there, and it's pretty easy to identify them as a hoax right off the bat. And the reason is because it's not easy to do this. The suits won't fit right. They won't fit the same. You always see these hoaxes. They're always obstructed by branches. They're always way off in the distance. They're a major blob squatch. You never see something that's out in the open that could be scrutinized because it can't be done at this level. Even if you think about movies where there are furry monsters in them, it's always quick cuts. You know, that you see the monster for a second or two and that's it. That's because if you saw it any longer, it would be easy to see that it's a suit, that it's makeup. That's why Hollywood does it the way that they do. Because it's very difficult to pull off a realistic looking monster suit or even monster prosthetics and that kind of thing. It's very difficult to do. So you don't see it in Hollywood even today. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars going to some of these films. And even in those films, you don't see the monster for very long at all. You see it for a little tiny, a couple of seconds at a time, and that's it. So it just can't be done. So I would put a challenge out there. Any of you skeptics who have money, because I've heard that, we have people out there who finance Bigfoot research. But there's also evidently the skeptics have people who are financing them to spread the word and have podcasts to spread the word that this is all a hoax because, they have some kind of a vendetta against this Bigfoot thing or whatever it is. Well, one of you people out there one of you skeptics who has all of this money, either you do it yourself or you pay somebody else to prove that this can be recreated today. I don't think it can be recreated today. And on today's film, with the high def that we have, here's the other thing that nobody takes into consideration, is that this film was really low quality. There were no details that could stand out that were larger or smaller than about a 2 to 3 inch diameter. Because of the lens that was used, the film, the technology back then, there just wasn't the kind of detail we have today. So when you're looking at this and you're saying, well, yeah, it looks like somebody in a suit, like when I was a kid, well, it looks like a padded pair of shorts because in that particular video, I couldn't see any detail of a butt. And now, we can enhance it and we can barely see that line that shows up, that there is detail there. Well, if this had been high def, we would see even more detail. If this was taken with a high definition camera, there would be no doubt whatsoever in anyone's mind that this is real. The only reason that the skeptics can make the arguments that they do is because the detail isn't there. Had the detail been in this film, they would have no way of arguing it. So I would like to see the skeptics put together a recreation of this that comes off as believable as this, showing the detail that you can see in this low quality film. And I'm not even saying, come on, and not use a bad quality film to cover up the fact that they can't do it, but do a high quality recording of it, but have that high quality recording show at least this much detail, the detail that we can see in this crappy quality film. I'll bet you it can't be done. If it could be, it would have been done already. Somebody would have already done it and tried to, they could even have, if we could recreate it today, somebody would have already recreated it by now, put it on, went through post-processing to make it look like an old film like this, and then leaked it to the press. Hey, somebody found this film that they took of Bigfoot, years and years ago. Let it come out in the media. Let all of us Bigfoot people say, oh, see, there's another one. And then at the last minute come out and say, it was a hoax. Y'all don't know what you're talking about. See, blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing would have happened. But it hasn't. And the reason it hasn't is because it can't be done even today. And if you skeptics think it can be, then prove me wrong. I put a challenge out there to you. Prove that you can recreate this kind of detail, or these kind of anatomical, or this kind of anatomy in a suit. And even with today's technology, prove to me that it can be done today, and then argue about it being done in 1967. I don't think it can be done today. Anyway, that's all that's just a quick show on the Patterson Gimlin film. There's no way it's a hoax, people. You just putting everything else aside, just the fact that the wrist, the fingers, and the toes and the foot are articulated couldn't be done in 1967. I don't think it could be done today. I don't think you're going to get a guy in a suit with some remote control animatronics to be able to walk that naturally for that distance without some kind of problem. They would probably in film today, they would probably take maybe 5 seconds of somebody walking, and they would do a cut. Just like they do in fight scenes. They do quick cuts in order to cover up the fact that the fight scene isn't as good as you think it is, as good as it's portrayed when you actually see the movie, is because they do quick cuts. And they would have to do quick cuts on this too, because they wouldn't be able to cover up the fact that this guy's stumbling and he has to keep looking down or whatever. There's going to be problems. He's not going to be able to do it for the length of time that Patty did in this film. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling on. So that's the end of the show. If you liked the show and you want me to keep doing more shows, please press that like button right now on YouTube. Press that like button. If you're on my blog, follow me, subscribe, share this video with other people, and then I'll be able to continue doing the show. And until the next show, y'all have a good evening.
Man from the dead.
We're back from the dead.
Hell yeah.
We're back from the dead. Back from the dead. Back from the dead.